I'm not real sure what to do with Fridays anymore. Part of me really looks forward to them, and part of me is like, holy shit, what's going to happen next? Um, what we know is well, for folks who don't get it, let's let's start at the beginning, okay? Uh, in the Atlantic, um, the Atlantic had a story that let me see if I can find it here for everybody real quick. Well, you would think something like that would have been really easy to find, right?
Hmm.
Here we go. Here we go. Let me share it with everybody. Um, Here we go. Okay. The president that would be Trump.
Linger on that headline just for a second. Pull that back down. Yeah.
Okay. The president has repeatedly disparaged the intelligence of service members and asked that wounded veterans be kept out of military parades. Now, that does not come as a surprise whatsoever. The Atlantic, who is, I guess, has a bunch of sources and has been confirmed by, I want to say, what, guys, 3 or 4 minimum legitimate news sources.
Yeah.
Minimum 3 or 4, right?
Yeah. Plus, they came back out today and said, we stand by our reporting because, of course, Trump and his press secretary are trying to deny this all. They're trying to play up the idea that there's anonymous sources. They came out with their little placards today in the White House press room and said 3 anonymous sources, 4 this, 10 that, whatever. And Atlantic said, we don't care. We're standing by our story 100%. It's a true story. So he calls people that have died in wars, all the way back to World War I believe, if you go back to that, suckers and losers. And, it's interesting to me. And you said legitimate news sources. Let's talk about one that maybe not a legitimate news source, but one that a lot of the MAGA people believe in 100%. Fox News. Fox News. There's a site called Fox News Democracy. Fox News correspondent by the name of Jackie Heinrich. Jackie Heinrich. JACQUIHEINRICH. She's a national correspondent covering 2020, 3-time Emmy Award-winning reporter. She's a host with the Fox News Rundown podcast. And if you go to her Twitter feed, she says, today, 1 hour ago, Jen Griffin from Fox News confirms former Trump administration official confirms details in the Atlantic story, including quotes about veterans. When the president spoke about the Vietnam War, he said it was a stupid war. Anyone who went was a sucker. Let me say it again. Fox News confirmed that when the president spoke about the Vietnam War, he said it was a stupid war and anyone who went was a sucker. Her next tweet, follow that up, says, finally, per Jen Griffin at Fox News, when asked if POTUS could have driven to the Aisne-Marne Cemetery, that's in France, outside of Paris, this former official said confidently, no security reason not to drive there. The president drives a lot. The other world leaders drove to the cemeteries. He just did not want to go, quote unquote. And that was one of his big things because they were talking about how he didn't want to go to the cemetery meeting the day that they were going to honor the soldiers who died in France because he didn't want the rain to hit his hair and mess it up. And he said, no, it was a security detail. The Secret Service came to me and said, we can't go there. We can't fly there. And we can't drive you there. So specifically, Fox News confirmed that that's a lie. They said they spoke with a official, said there was no security reason not to drive there. The president drives a lot. This is a direct quote. The president drives a lot. The other world leaders drove to the cemeteries. He just did not want to go, period.
I was watching it today and I was literally screaming at the television because you know, like somebody's going to hear me, right? And I said, every leader from every country who participated in that war managed to get to that cemetery, and ours couldn't do it. For some reason, the president of the United States was the only leader of every country who fought in that war who couldn't make it to a cemetery in France while this guy was in France. Okay, it wasn't like he was traveling across the Atlantic. He was already there. And he for some reason, he couldn't make it. I said, Trudeau made it, for God's sake. Canada has 3 cars and a gun. And they were able to go there, right? and this clown couldn't make it. And I'm screaming at the television, and I said I can't believe that this guy is getting me this pissed off, and I realized this because he's shitting on our military, right? He's shitting on people who are willing to sacrifice everything to defend us, and he continues to shit on him. And Lou, I think you and I talked. Was it Tuesday? Whenever we had that that poll with the military, right? Where he's losing their support.
And that was before this.
Yeah, this isn't helping. We said what? It's probably around 5 million votes whenever you count family and everything. You think this put a negative spin on their votes, considering that they've probably, if they haven't voted, they are now? How do you think this is going to affect things?
Well, you think about where a lot of your military people come from. Pennsylvania is a heavy military state for volunteers.
Yeah.
How many are residing in Virginia? Isn't there 2 big Army bases in North Carolina? Bragg and Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
Yeah. South Carolina has Parris Island.
For the Marines, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a base in Youngstown.
Yeah, air base. There's an air base wing in Pittsburgh too.
Yeah. Well, Allegheny County is already going Democrat, so
the feedback I'm seeing from military folks, and it's anecdotal. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of proof except for some anecdotal stories I'm reading and things I'm seeing. The denials are not resonating with them. The denials from Trump are not resonating with them, and it's very understandable. I mean, you see his video of him disparaging McCain. You see video of him disparaging the Gold Star family. It's undeniable. The guy has video proof and tweets that hurt him. So now when you see this kind of thing come out, it's not hard to believe. And now you've got other sources verifying it. Look, I said it before. At this point, if you want to walk in there and record him saying something and put it out there and just say he's going to lie about it, he's going to lie about it. You could get him on recording in his own voice saying something, and then he'll lie and say never said it.
Well, he's already denying motherfucking McCain.
Yeah, and it's on video.
Yeah, and that's on tape.
Yeah, I mean,
it's funny too, because you mentioned they haven't come forward with names. They're verifiable sources. The Republicans want names, yet they believe QAnon conspiracy theories.
Right.
I know, right?
Which I don't want to go too far down that path, but let me just say this. About 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, those QAnon crazies were talking about how Bill Gates wants to implant you with a chip, and he wants to do all kind of things to you with his vaccine against COVID. This is the big plan for him to take over the planet. And now if Trump puts out a vaccine a day or two before the election, those MAGA followers of QAnon, what are they going to say? Are they going to line up? They're going to line up to be the first ones to take a rushed vaccine from him?
You know what I found interesting whenever I heard that yesterday we had somebody in the chat who we were talking about Trump pushing having a vaccine by the beginning of November, right? Like November 1st. And we had somebody in the chat that was saying he's waiting for the Oxford one. Remember that, Lou? He was waiting for the Oxford one. And I want to say it was either CNN or MSNBC earlier today who had somebody from Oxford who was actually doing this. And he said, yeah, there's no way in hell. He literally said, there is no way in hell that we have a vaccine by November 1st. There is literally no way that's going to happen. And I just sat there and I chuckled and I looked at my wife and I said, honey, you're not going to believe this. But we, you know, and I told her about the guy that we had on the Twitch chat who was saying that. And it was hysterical to see somebody literally from representing the folks who are from Oxford who were actually doing this, who said that. Getting back to Frank's point here, all the times Trump dishonored veterans in the military service. This is, well, first of all, it was McCain, the way he motherfucked McCain, right? He's no war hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured, right? So this was in 2015. Okay. Everybody remembers the Khan family in the 2016 campaign, right? Everybody remembers that. There's the iconic picture right there.
Kazir Khan, who is on the right there, the father issued a statement today. His soul is that of a coward. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I couldn't agree more. We've said for how long his actions and his statements are that of a coward. A veteran in Virginia gave him a Purple Heart. Gave him his Purple Heart. And he took it, right? And what the veterans were all pissed off about it because he didn't even think twice about taking it. He just grabbed it. Later on, he talks about all the Frank, to go back to our soccer background, right? Everybody he shagged. It's a dangerous world out there. It's scary. Like my own personal Vietnam, he said in the 2004 clip, talking about all the females that he shagged. Trump sometimes has brought his way into veteran affairs by making donations that earn him a spot. And he ends up stealing from them. There was the Easter egg rule at the White House where there was him, his wife, and Barron. But only two of them had their hands over their hearts. But you can't guess which two that was, right? Well, here's a hint. Until Melania subtly nudged her husband to remind him to lift his own hand. The national anthem, him and his buddy Tucker. Okay, remember you get, or I'm sorry, Sean. This was Sean. This was Hannity. And so I apologize, right? On October 11th. What a nice sound that is. Are they playing that for you or me? He asked. He waited 12 days to the attack in Niger before he sent out the condolence letters. He promised a $25,000 check to Chris Baldridge, his family. And that was put off until there was a presser, and I remember that presser, to which they said the check has been sent. Guys, we got to call a spade a spade. This guy doesn't give a fuck about military or military families. He just does not care about the sacrifices these people are willing to make.
He has no clue why they would do that.
No clue.
Is what it amounts to. Why would you volunteer for the military when you could go into business and make money?
Frank?
Yeah.
Because I had heard, and I think that was verified, that Don Jr. actually wanted to join the military
Didn't
out of
he?
high school,
Yeah.
and he shit himself.
Didn't he?
I
Threatened to. Go ahead.
I believe one of Trump's brothers also wanted to join the military. I don't know if it was Robert or Fred, and the father had a shit fit.
It was the older brother, right? His older brother did.
I think it was the older brother.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't sound like he was too far away from his father. Frank, how do you look at this? This guy's the commander in chief, by the way. Let's not forget that.
It's so hypocritical. Everything he's done in his life is hypocritical. He wraps himself theoretically, not even just theoretically or hypothetically. Remember that time he grabbed the flag and wrapped it around himself on the stage?
Yeah.
He uses the flag as a prop. He uses the people, the soldiers, as a prop when they're convenient to him. But his real beliefs and his heart belie his actions when he's trying to use them for votes. I'll tell you right now, when I was down in D.C. working in 2016 and 17, part of 18, Michelle Obama, there was a new veterans homeless apartment housing that was opened, and it was like, I think 40 apartments, maybe more than that, but it was a brand new place, beautiful facility, and it was done with a lot of private donations, some government money, but mostly private donations. And because it was serving veterans, Michelle Obama came to speak with them, but she kept it quiet. She didn't want any publicity. She just came in and she spent time listening to them, and she talked to them about how this was a step that was honoring them, and that they should be proud of the fact that they've earned this. And she was very uplifting, as she always is. But what struck me is she didn't want to seek any fame from that. She didn't want to seek any media exposure from that. I worked directly with this organization that built this building in DC, and that's the only reason I knew it happened. That's the only reason I was able to find out about it. And I would go there and give free legal services to the veterans that lived there. And Trump is the exact opposite of that. He won't do a damn thing for them. He doesn't care one bit about them. He just tries to get media attention and votes out of it. But literally, if they were on fire, he wouldn't find the need to piss on them to put the fire out.
He wouldn't piss on them to put the fire out. I got to be honest. That's a great saying. So Joe Biden holds a presser today. And I got to be honest, Frank, and Lou. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the Daily Mail, but boy, they hit a home run here. I watched the presser today, and believe it or not, what excited me more than anything isn't what Biden had to say, but the emotion behind what he said. You could tell that the Biden was pissed off, and I'm actually sitting here and I'm cheering him on as I'm watching this presser, and I keep saying, it was like a scene out of Star Wars, right? Where I'm sitting there and I'm like, embrace your anger, man, embrace it, right? Show it. Give the Democrats, give the left, give them something, show them that you have feeling, that you have emotion, that this is important to you. And boy, did he hit a home run today. I could not believe what I saw from Biden today. In a great line, he said, "I'm always cautioned not to lose my temper, but this may be as close as I come this campaign." I'm going to take a guess and say no. It's not. It's going to get worse. He one of the best lines I've heard him say was, who does he think he is? Right? I mean, Joe Biden today, and I told my wife while I'm watching this presser, I said, you know what? I hear a lot of Barack Obama in this presser, and I wondered how much, and I kind of said it to myself, and I should have asked her because she's on top of these things. I wonder how much of Obama's pressers, whenever he would do things like this, was a we project where he obviously he had people writing for him or whatever, right? He had PR people, he had speech writers. I wonder how much influence Biden had on that, because I'm telling you, it was a carbon copy. In part of it, he asked, he said if the reporter's comments were accurate, then they were absolutely damnable. And he said, it's a disgrace. Biden literally tore into everything that has happened. And he said again, and you've heard him say this time after time after time, as a country, we have one truly sacred obligation, right? And that's all he talks about, right? The government has, and that is, and I don't know if it says it here, but basically what he says is to equip those who go to war, support them while they're at war, and take care of them whenever they come home, right? That's the only true sacred obligation that the country has. I never seen Biden absolutely lose his mind the way he lost it today. And he was he was calm, he was collected, but you could tell he was really upset. And you could tell that he had it in emotion because his son Bo, but both was in Afghanistan. He fought, he dodged bullets for us. It was one of the few times I actually thought where I saw a politician, and I really thought that, you know what, this guy's being legit. This guy's being honest. He's being legit. And I wonder. I said today, I told my wife, I said, this may have been, the one moment for Biden where I don't want to say it was his defining moment. The guy's been in politics for like 47 years or something like that. But this may have been for his presidential campaign, the one one speech, the one thing that kind of catapults him and gets him over the hump and gets the votes that he may not have had. I'm wondering what you guys think of that. Do you think that one speech like this, attacking everything that Trump said, would do that? I'll start with Lou. What do you think, Lou?
It goes a long way. I just wish I could have seen it.
It's up on YouTube. Trust me.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it later. But you know what? People know when you're genuine, and people know when you're bullshitting. Well, most of them, I should say.
If they're being honest. If they're being honest.
And you know what? A lot of that they could clip into commercials, I'm sure. How are they going to use that against Biden? They can't.
I don't know if they can.
Frank? This.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's just, I don't think they can. And I think that clip getting around local news and everything tonight will make an impact in places.
I think so too. Frank?
Yeah, I think his passion, I mean, he's definitely somebody who, some people that are very close to me that are Biden supporters, staunch lifelong Democrats, have feared the hype about Biden, being a difficult person to engage in speech and debates because of his stuttering problem, and that his, sometimes he's prone to gaffes. But when you get a situation like this where he was speaking from the heart, and I can't wait to see everything that he said. But from all accounts that I've read about it, even Britt Hume from Fox News said that he was on point. Britt Hume only criticized the reporters that were there for quote unquote throwing him softballs, which I thought was hilarious. That was the only thing that he could really bring up to try to denigrate this. But he said that there was no halting in his speech, that it was very on point. And that's all you're going to get from Fox News. So to answer your question, Lou, I don't think there's any way they can attack him. Secondly, I think that, you know, when it's from his heart and it's passionate like this, it shows the people what Lou was saying earlier about it's genuine, and it conveys that genuine feel. He's personally invested, right? He's personally invested in this, whereas Trump is clearly not. Trump is clearly not, and that comes across as well, and that's a huge contrast. And I think that people who have served in the military, they may have been suckered in, to use the word sucker, they may have been suckered in by Trump's con to some extent. But now that they're seeing all of this evidence, boy, oh boy, I think we've talked about it maybe a long, long time ago. The American people will forgive a lot of things. They'll forgive a lot of things. One thing they won't forgive, when they feel like they've been directly lied to, okay? And that's where he is right now. That's where Trump is right now. He's in that position where he has directly lied to the military, and he's doubled down on it today by saying, I would never say that. I would never say that. And the more the evidence keeps mounting that he did, he's in a bad position. Bad position.
He's in a bad way.
There's you talk about it's very plausible to me, this says, military leaders unconvinced by Trump's denial.
Yeah.
You know, the thing
this is just on one of the news articles.
we're gonna play a clip from CNN here in a minute, but the one thing that got me was whenever this came out, okay, whenever the Atlantic story came out, and you had a bunch of other news sources and news organizations, I should say news organizations, and entertainment organizations like Fox, who pretty much confirmed what was going on, and Trump comes out and just denies it like he's talking to St. Peter at the pearly gates, right? But you know who didn't say anything, who we haven't heard from? We haven't heard from anybody in the Pentagon. We haven't heard anybody from the Joint Chiefs. We haven't heard anybody who was a former staffer, right? Kelly comes to mind, right? We haven't heard anything from any of them. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and you know, you guys know how I am. The fact that you're not saying anything to me speaks volumes. It's been a day, and you still don't even want to address this? Why not?
It's been 70 days since the bounty on American troops broke.
Still haven't heard anything, have we?
That hasn't been addressed either. He denied that, and hope it goes away. There's so much other crap flowing that, you know, it pretty much has when you think about it.
Frank, we're talking about the military, yet we hear nothing from the Pentagon. We hear nothing from military leaders. Zero, zip, nothing at all. What's that tell you?
Yeah, because obviously they can't really say too much. So it says a whole lot, because if there were denials coming out, you know, right away, you at least say, okay, you know, you got to take some of that with a grain of salt. But with nothing coming out, it's to me, it speaks volumes.
It says a lot, right? It says a whole lot. Here's CNN today. Here's part of his presser.
Frankly, if what is written in the Atlantic is true, it's disgusting. And it affirms what most of us believe to be true. That Donald Trump is not fit to do the job of president, be the commander-in-chief. The president reportedly said, and I emphasize reportedly said, that those who sign up to serve instead of doing something more lucrative are suckers. Let me be real clear. When my son was an assistant U.S. attorney and he volunteered to go to Kosovo while the war was going on as a civilian, he wasn't a sucker. When my son volunteered and joined the United States military as the Attorney General, and went to Iraq for a year, won the Bronze Star and other commendations, he wasn't a sucker. The servicemen and women he served with, particularly those who did not come home, were not losers. If these statements are true, the president should humbly apologize to every Gold Star mother and father, and every Blue Star family that he's denigrated and insulted. Who the heck does he think he is?
Dude, that says a lot. Okay, and you saw the passion and conviction whenever he was saying that. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I really want to do this from like a third party, from a more neutral point of view. How does he not generate a lot more positive feedback in the polls and whatnot? How does that not generate more votes for him? Because that was about as passionate a speech as you're going to see him give. Frank?
Yeah. I think that when you see that, and thank you for playing it for me, because I really haven't had a chance to see it. And you know what? I would say, even for people who are watching anywhere in the world, we'll say some hellos to some of our fans out there that watch us from around the world, like Luca. Thanks for joining us again today. I would say when people around the world in the United States see that, again, it just harkens to genuineness. It shows something that people will gravitate towards. To me, I mean, I'm already telling you, I know I'm going to vote for the guy, but in any event, I still think that people who might have been on the fence, who have lived some life, they're going to watch that, and I think it's going to make them gravitate towards him. I honestly do. I'd like to see what my daughter would say, because she's kind of on the fence. I'll tell you right now, she's not going to vote for Trump 100%, but she hasn't caught fire for Biden, and I would like to see what she would say after she watches that.
Lou, we live in Mayberry, right?
The question is this going to get out there to a lot of outlets, or is it going to be hidden by the so-called liberal media that's actually mainstream that leans right?
Fox
Yes.
Entertainment is verifying it.
Fox did. I'd like to see it get airplay on a lot of local stations and get out there. Fox did it in the afternoon. They're going to play it. Do you think Hannity or Tucker will play it tonight? I doubt it.
Well, here's Frank and I are gamblers. So here's the question I'm going to ask you: which one of them is going to do you think would have a better shot at actually reporting it? I'm not going to say comment on it. I'm going to say reporting it. Tucker or Sean Hannity? Which one?
Tucker possibly, but I doubt it.
If you had to pick one, if you had to say one of these two is going to confirm it, all right. So we're going out on a limb here, and I get that, Lou. I understand. I'm being silly. Which one do you think would do it first? If you had to bet on it, which one? Tucker? Frank?
Yeah.
I do too.
And the analyst in me would want to say the reason why. I mean, I think that Hannity is all in on the whole idea of whether he's, he may be in on the problems, like the legal problems. There's talk of him being represented by the same attorney. Dershowitz, has been in problems, and maybe he's too tight to the circle, and he's all in. Whereas Tucker just seems to be an asshat, but he'll occasionally report. He'll occasionally report on actual stories of significance. So I don't think he'll do this one, but if I had to pick one of the two, it would be him.
Vanity Fair got into the act today. I got to be honest. I kind of dig the headline, right? It's not very often where you see a national publication referred to your president as a human parasite.
My goodness.
So they're going in hard, right? He talks about soldiers MIAs being left for dead. He had talked at some point earlier about disabled veterans not being in parades, all that, because of the optics of it. He doesn't think that folks in wheelchairs should be in a parade. I can't imagine what he's saying about somebody like Tammy Duckworth. It's very apparent that the only thing this clown cares about is optics and the things that you would think are very important to somebody who is a reality show host. Do you think people who have voted for him 4 years ago or 3 years ago, the last election, 2016, are starting to look at this and saying, you know what? There's no way we can support this bullshit again. Lou?
So what's the over under? 2 points?
Sure.
When it should be 12?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think this solidifies anybody on the fence to go Biden.
You don't think?
Well, I think it solidifies the fence people to Biden.
All right, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I apologize.
I mean, the 38% MAGA, they'll deny it till they go broke and die from COVID.
No. Frank?
Yeah, I agree. I think I think that he's. I got to agree just almost completely with Lou. I don't really have too much to add to it other than to say that, the MAGA people, the MAGA people will try to bend, and I don't even know. Usually I have a pulse for what they're going to try to do, what they're going to try to say. But maybe they'll say something about how his contempt for the military or his contempt for these kind of things is because he doesn't want to see us involved in endless wars. But that misses the point. That misses the point of the fact that he is dishonoring people who have actually sacrificed something for this country. And it's ironic, right? And I don't know that the irony will ever be caught by the MAGA people, but here's a person who said, I would fire those son of a bitches if they kneeled in front of the flag, okay? Which was started by Colin Kaepernick, and he kneeled because a veteran told him that's a way to honor the veterans, but still make your point about protesting police killings and police brutality. But they were told by this guy, Trump, that this is a disgrace. I'd tell the son of bitches, get off the field if they kneel in front of the flag. Yet he turns around and says awful things directly about military people who have sacrificed. That irony, I don't know if it's being seized upon yet, really. And I don't know if it'll ever be seized upon by the MAGA folks. But I think there are some people who, once that starts to be connected, you connect those dots, they're going to be pissed. I really believe it will piss off the people who may have been on the fence and maybe turn some people who were like, let's give this a try. I hate the insiders in Washington. I hate the arrogant elites. Let's give this a try. And then they're going to look at this and say, this guy's a jackass and I can't be behind it anymore.
Well, you think that some of the people who we're surrounded with are going to look at the things that transpired over the last 24, 36 hours and change their minds?
Very few. I don't even know if that was enough to kick him in the nuts.
I mean, you think they just drank the Kool-Aid and that's it?
Yeah, when you think about it, a good example is your neighbor there that was a Democrat with the Trump flag. Was he a veteran?
No.
I mean,
he went a couple of houses up from me.
Yeah, on your side.
With the flag in the front yard.
Yeah, he's on your side of this road there.
Well, from what I understand, he was the R and his wife was the D.
Okay. And his wife passed away.
Yeah, a number of years ago. Yeah, I want to say 6-8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, you would think you know what? In 6-8 years, the Republican Party took a 180 from what it was.
Mm-hmm.
If that's possible.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it did.
When you think about they drank the Kool-Aid and are following a cult. I mean, and we've talked about your McCain Republican, your Steve Schmidt Republicans, and so on and so forth. They've already taken a stand. It's this higher percentage that haven't, which just amazes me. And when you think about it, a lot of these people benefited from the age group they're in. They benefited from every liberal policy there was from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And yet they're hardcore right wing now. They don't even realize how much Kool-Aid they've drank. And is this going to wake them up? I don't think.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe.
I don't think. I hate to sound that
pessimistic.
Yeah, that's not even a strong enough word. Let's put it that way.
To the bullshit that's going on with
these.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, and at times I get that feeling too, and there will probably be more times like that, Lou. When I talk to people who are either close or somewhat close to me that have been drinking the Kool-Aid, and I need to say to them, look at this, and then if they react in any way, I guess my expectation is not that they're going to digest this news and immediately turn. I don't hold out hope that there'll be like this immediate revelation right after I tell them that or show them that, but I think maybe after a couple days. My expectation is this may have an effect, along with other things with some folks. But I think there are people who you described very well that live in Lawrence County and other places in Western Pennsylvania, and frankly across the country in certain pockets of the country that you described it very well. They're never going to change. But I think there are some people who may have been MAGA hat wearers when this resonates with them, when they actually can't run from the truth because Fox News is now verifying it. And if it's put in their face enough, it's going to be hard pill for them to swallow and not kind of change their philosophy on things.
I mean, the ones that are left is that group, no matter what, they hate the same people he does is what it boils down to.
We've always said that, right?
Yeah.
Always said that. The one thing that I think may sway them, and Biden hit on this in his presser today. Okay. Biden had said during his presser today that Trump is the only president who has lost more jobs from the time he came up for re-election than when he started. Every president before him has gained in jobs. Okay, and I didn't know that. I'm going to take him for what it's worth, because by now if he would have been fact checked. Here's where I think he's going to get hit the hardest and the most is the fact that, and my only caveat to this is the inability for Democrats to message anything worth a shit. His job losses are the worst of any American president on record. And yet, we have stock markets that's going through the roof. The Democrats are going to have to come up with a way to correlate that, to show people that, to make that to get that to hit home. How the rich are getting richer, and the fact that we're losing jobs like water coming out of a spigot. Do you think they can? Do you think they're going to be able to do that, or do you think that it's going to be the typical Democratic? Here's a softball we're going to pitch to you, and we're going to foul it off.
They need to state that, but this guy throws so much shit out. Is how do you focus on the 10-second attention span of the American people? 3-4 messages. That needs to be one of the messages with healthcare, jobs.
Yeah.
Just Trump being a douchebag.
Yeah. Frank, what do you think?
I think I think they'll do it, and I think it works. And I think the simplest way to do it is just to ask the question, which has been asked in other campaigns before: are you better off? Are you really better off? Because I'm going to say that most of the people who are living Main Street lives, or Mayberry lives, or whatever kind of lives they're living, unless they're living a Wall Street life, they're not better off today than they were 4 years ago. Do you sleep better now than you did 4 years ago? Do you feel better about your country than you did 4 years ago? When you think about what's going on in our country and how we're viewed in the world, do you feel better about it? I'd ask those 3 questions in one ad. Are you better off? Is your family better off than you were 4 years ago? Do you feel better about our country than you did 4 years ago? And do you sleep better than you did 4 years ago? I think those would pretty much encapsulate it. I think there's enough help from the Lincoln Group, from the Midas Touch people. I think that the Democratic strategists need to look to them and say, we need to hire them to start doing some ads for us. And I think they will. I think, there's so much fodder. Yes, there's so many things to attack, but they will. They'll hone in on the things that matter to Americans. What matters to Americans? Your pocketbook, your health care. Some people, a growing amount, the environment. We've
Your
lost
kids.
sight of it. Yeah, that too, and we've lost sight of all that because we have somebody who doesn't lead.
Because of all the bullshit.
Yeah.
Are you better off? That was a Reagan thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was him. You know what might do it? You know what might get people to who are on the fence or not real sure? The fact that we may not be in the Olympics. Now you have to
see that.
Frank, you have to admit it was a decent segue.
It was.
I mean, I've had better, but it was pretty good, right?
Listen, that was nuanced, and I appreciated every bit of it. We lose Patsy.
What did he just left?
I think he'll come back, but yeah.
I didn't. I saw a little blurb of that. I haven't had a chance to check it. I've been busy all day.
You guys. I'm sorry. Wrong button.
You were so excited you threw yourself out of the Olympics.
You know what? You know how hard it is to throw yourself out of a podcast. And I've done it twice this week. I did it twice. We could be thrown out if the Trump administration follows through with his threats to pull U.S. funding from the World Anti-Doping Agency. I'll be honest with you, and I hate to say it because I'm going to sound like an asshole, but to me, eventually you have to pay the price, right? You guys have heard me say it how many times, right? You either pay on the front when it's cheap or in the back when it's more expensive. And if you're continuously being taken off the hook, you never quite face the consequences. I almost hope this happens. I almost do. The only thing that's making me stop and two things are making me stop and not formally saying that is, number one, you're going to have a whole bunch of people who don't deserve to be punished for it be punished for it. The other thing is, as far as I know, the Olympics aren't going to happen in the next 60 days. So you're going to see this happen well after the election. And that's not doing us any good at all. But I'm curious what you guys think it is. Do you think, well, just give me your thoughts on it. Lou, what do you think?
Is it basically a shot across the bow from the Olympic Committee stating, you know what, we're supporting Biden without saying so?
Well, it's because we pulled out of the World Anti-Doping Agency.
Yeah, and who's got thrown out of the last 2 Olympics for doping?
Russia.
Yeah, there you go.
Coincidence, huh? What do we say about coincidences? What do we say about coincidences?
Take a lot of planning.
They take a lot of planning. Frank, what do you think?
it's another black eye. It's another black eye that it's even being breathed about, that it's being murmured and written about. It's a black eye. A country like the United States, unless we've got some serious, like you referenced earlier with the Russia and U.S., in the back-to-back Olympics in '76 and '80, where it was a tit for tat thing there, and one country hosted and the other country hosted, and they went back and forth for that, right?
Mhm.
Or was it '80 and '84? I can't remember the exact years, but
I think it was 80 and 84.
'80 and '84, yeah. So in the '80 and '84 situation, where the host country wants to do that, pull that crap, that's a black eye on the host country. But in this situation, it's the IOC, and it's a host country that doesn't have any particular beef with us politically. It's a black eye, man. And wow, as it gets closer, if this thing gets legs, I think it's, I don't know how you come back from it, really, honestly, as a political leader, and say, oh, I got our country banned from the Olympics. Great job.
That's actually hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is an accomplishment, right? The obvious question always comes up whenever we see things like this and at some point the next question you're going to ask is, how is it going to affect things? What's it going to do for the vote? What's it going to do for this or that? And in good times and bad times, we've shown over and over and over again, and we're not the only ones, that he's basically 42%, right? Those numbers don't change. At what point do you no longer give a shit about that 40 to 42%? Have we hit that point yet where it's time to look at it like these guys have drunk the Kool-Aid? That's it. They're just going to line up and die in a field someplace, and they're just going to go down with the ship, and we just have to just discount them and ignore them and go on our way? Or do we look at them like we still have to do everything we can to pull them in? And the reason why is because of if we're doing something that gives them pause, that gives these people pause, and makes them even think about coming around, that it's going to pull people who may be on the fence. You know what I mean? You're shooting for the stars, but you take the moon. That type thing. Or do we just not give a shit and just go on our way and say, you know what, that's 40%. We'll worry about the 60. I'll go back. I'll go the other way. I'll start with Frank this time.
I think you have to keep trying, because you never know what's going to turn people. And this one with the military stuff has some legs, and it's a reaction that I haven't seen up to this point in time. I haven't seen this kind of reaction. And again, it's anecdotal, but I'm starting to see more and more people that I thought would never turn and say stuff to say things. The fact that Fox News came out quickly and verified this, it's, I think it adds to it. Then if you have other things that come along and you continue to tell the story, I think you don't give up on people, because I think that demographically there were some people who voted for Obama and voted for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So I think demographically you have to say you can't give up on them. You just can't.
Lou?
Yeah, I agree with Frank, because there was a decent number of blue collar workers that voted for both of those people, and you need to get those ones back in the D column.
Yeah, we know a bunch of those people.
And there was a lot in the Rust Belt that gave him a chance.
Oh yeah.
Because he was an outsider, which he can no longer claim now. He hasn't drained the swamp; he's dug it deeper.
Yeah, he made it bigger.
It's a sanitation plant now. It's not a swamp. And there is that on the edge there. I mean, I know they do a great job at polling, but I just think there's hidden pockets out there that never get polled.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think there's pockets of people who, and I don't know if they're a majority or a minority. I really don't, but I do think there is a significant number of people who never get polled. I can't tell you if I've ever been polled.
I mean, they have it figured a certain way, but when you take how diverse Pennsylvania can be, like we always laugh about, it's Pennsyltucky, it's Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Alabama in the middle.
Yeah.
That Bible Belt. I'd be curious on the next poll to see what evangelical support is.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Let me throw this one at you guys. Same kind of topic, but now that we see the tide turning, maybe even just so slightly, as we go back and revisit COVID, which we seem to do all the time on this podcast because we are in a pandemic, we have more evidence today coming out of multiple peer review studies that say that wearing a mask can stop the spread of COVID. The CDC came out and said that they've collected all these peer review studies from different sources, and everybody pretty much agrees. Anybody with any science background, any kind of study that they've supported shows that wearing a mask can stop the spread. Even just a cloth mask, 1 layer. 2 layers is better, and a surgical mask or an N95 is virtually stops any particles coming out, okay? So what they were told was mixed messages early on. Now, if you've got a family member that got sick or died, God forbid, or you've been impacted severely by this as a business person, and you go back and start thinking in your mind, wait a minute, who was pushing us not to wear masks? Who was pushing us back to all this stuff? Who was the mixed messages coming from? Oh, it was Trump, and it was that's another thing that could start to resonate with people again now and say, wait a minute, we've been lied to, we've been misled. And here's the last kicker on this. The Fed chair, Jerome Powell, came out today about an hour or so ago and said, wearing masks can lead to enormous, quote unquote, economic gains. Now he's speaking that language. He's tying in the wearing of a mask to recovering the economy.
Mm-hmm.
How fucking stupid was Trump not to realize this in the beginning? That he could have helped the economy by pushing people to wear masks and social distance so that he could have got people back into the economy quicker. Now you've got Jerome Powell, who's his guy, saying that. And again, it's not going to. I still believe that people are smart enough, and when you give them enough of this evidence, they're going to go back and start connecting the dots. And it may be partially on the Democrats to start connecting those dots for them a little bit with some ads and pushing this information out there. But it all ties into your point, Patsy. I think every little bit starts to turn the tide a little bit more, and we got to keep trying.
I think the only way those little bits work, and I think you hit it right on the head, is I firmly believe that people need to be or want to be taken by the hand and told what to do. I truly, honestly believe that. And I think if you're going to take all these little points, the only way that all of these little points really start to add up is if you show them how all these little points add up. Then I think you will see people make the connection. But unless somebody points it out to them, I don't think it's going to matter either way. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't on Fox News tonight. But it's a great point and something Biden's been pounding in ads for the last month. You can't get the economy going until you get rid of COVID. Basically the same message.
Lincoln Project too?
Lincoln Project.
Well, I'm not saying it has to be a centralized anything, but I think unless you can show people a direct line from one to the other, that they're not going to make that correlation on their own. I think individuals might, but people generally aren't going to.
You know what? If Trump would have done this in May and said, you know what, we got to sacrifice a month, put your mask on, then we'll start rolling. Where do you think his polling numbers would be right now?
He'd be untouchable.
Yeah.
He'd be untouchable right now. Something as simple as that would have made him untouchable. I don't care who was running against him.
Yeah, it shows you how he bankrupted casinos.
It shows you what happens. It shows you the character of people whenever they have to make decisions, right? It's real easy to show whatever you want to show whenever things are going your way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It shows he is not a leader whatsoever.
Whenever you actually are called upon to do something, whenever you actually have to show your character, that's the moment of truth.
Would you say about 2-3 months ago already? He's not a man.
He's not a man. I've been
The
saying
man,
that for 3 years.
man takes responsibility.
Yeah, he's not a man. A man, takes it upon himself, right? He shoulders these responsibilities. He take. I don't want to say takes one for the team, but he's a pillar, right? He doesn't bail. He doesn't run away. He doesn't blame other people.
That's right.
Men don't do that. You guys know that.
Not in public, at least. You might come to your partner, you might come to somebody and say in private, in moments when you try to help them be a better person, or you try to live together and say, when we were out there and did this, you might have wanted to do it a different way and it didn't help us when we were in that situation. But when you're out in public, facing the public, you support that person that's with you. You support everybody around you, and you take the responsibility and say, "We're gonna be better." It's like when you're coaching a team, you don't throw your players under the bus publicly. You say, "I got to do a better job of preparing my players," and then behind closed doors with them, you say, "You missed an assignment. Here's the film. Let's watch it. Let's see how you can get better at not missing that assignment next time." But the point is, yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing that kills me about some of his supporters. All these people who are like law and order and responsibility and blah, blah, blah. And they want a strong man. He's never been a strong man. Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Patsy. I don't see how they look at him and say, yeah, that's my guy.
Right.
I don't get it.
Right. You look at the people that you're dealing with. You look at the folks who are counting on you, who look up to you, who are you're surrounded or who's surrounding you, and you sit there and you say, you know what? I don't care how bad it is, and I don't care what's going on. I'm going to step up. I'm going to be a positive influence on this. And even if I'm wrong, I'm not going to let people down.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes you have to. Yeah. Sometimes you have to just. You have to stay quiet and let things go for a little while. And just take that responsibility.
Because what choice do you have?
Yeah.
Right.
Here you go. We're always looking for something positive toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a quick snippet today. I had to drive over to Baird Brothers to pick up some trim lumber, hardwood, and some iron balusters for a railing that, it's going to be part of remodeling. So I'm driving 224 because they're on 224 on the other side of Canfield.
Yeah.
Do you know how many Biden signs I saw there?
Canfield? Don't have a clue.
More than I expected, but you know what really shocked me? I saw at least 5 Black Lives Matter signs.
In Canfield?
Canfield. I mean,
Holy
in the
shit.
center of Canfield.
Wow.
On 224.
I will tell you this much. My father-in-law was at the hospital. He had yet another stent put in. He had a bit of an episode. He's fine. Everything's good. He's home. Everything's fantastic. But my wife had, over the last couple of days, have made a couple of trips to our local hospital. And she said, "Have you been up that way lately?" And I said, "No, honey, I wouldn't, why would I? Kind of headed up toward your way, Frank, but, kind of off to the west a little bit." And she said, "It surprised me." She said, "Not that it was a ton, but I was surprised how many Biden signs I've seen."
Yeah.
And, that goes along with what you're saying, with how many in this area are maybe folks just had enough.
You're seeing it more. I'm seeing it more when I drive down Highland Avenue. I see more Biden signs. I've seen some up on the east side of Newcastle. I heard a story anecdotally from, I think my mom was telling me that somebody on Facebook posted that an older woman, an 84-year-old woman, put a Biden sign in her yard, and she got shouted down by some kids, and she just took the sign out of her yard and just was like, I'm not gonna
play this game.
4 years old, I'm not gonna put up with it. But that just shows you, though, that, like, you know, there are people out there more and more that are putting it up. And I told you my story. We got ours torn out of our yard twice. One was shredded. The other one, they just ripped it off the wires, and then somebody came over and put it back on the wires, which was kind of cool. I have a hate has no home. To your point, Lou, about the Black Lives Matter, I have a hate has no home here sign in my yard, or I had one. That's been pulled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe that.
I saw one of those in Canfield too.
Yep. It's
See
great.
that?
And I've seen a bunch of those on the way down Highland Avenue as well. Yeah, and I've got a Christy Nibus sign in my yard as well. So, and that one's been untouched so far. But yeah, I think you're seeing more and more people, and it's probably a lot more that want to put them up. But that's the story about that older woman. You know, they don't want to put up with the aggravation of being tortured and tormented just for having a Biden sign out in front of their yard in Newcastle.
Right. Yeah. Well, good way to end it. Folks, everybody who is in our chat, everybody watching, thank you. We will not be on Monday, okay? For folks here in the U.S., it's Labor Day. It's a national holiday for us, and believe it or not, we all labor. So we're taking the day off. We will be back on Tuesday, even though our schedule up on Twitch and every place else doesn't show. We will be back up on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. So if you're going to look for us on Monday, you're going to be disappointed. We will not be online. Okay, we will not be live. We will not be Memorex. We won't. They don't even know what Memorex is, guys. Forget it.
We don't know that.
A couple of folks maybe on Facebook might know, but that's about it. Anyhow, we will see everybody here on Tuesday. Okay. Until then, everybody, thank you very much, and goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see everybody on Tuesday. Bye-bye.